Olumide's wife, Ifeoma, stood on the balcony of their penthouse suite, her eyes scanning the horizon where the last rays of sunlight kissed the distant ocean. The cool breeze teased the silk fabric of her flowing gown, and the soft light from the crystal chandeliers inside cast a delicate glow on her flawless skin. She was the epitome of luxury, draped in silk, her skin glowing under the soft light of chandeliers, her voice sharp and commanding. But beneath her carefully crafted facade lay a tempest of vanity and cruelty, a woman accustomed to bending the world to her will. Inside the estate's grand hall, servants moved silently, attending to her every whim with practiced efficiency. The polished marble floors gleamed under the crystal chandeliers, and the scent of jasmine and expensive perfume mingled with the faint sound of traditional drums echoing from a distant festival, carried faintly by the evening breeze. Yet despite the grandeur surrounding her, Ifeoma's gaze hardened as she spotted a figure approaching the estate gates, a heavily pregnant woman, about 9 months along, seeking refuge. The woman's clothes were simple and worn, smeared with dust from the long journey, her sandals cracked and dirt-stained. Her face bore the soft glow of resilience, tempered by exhaustion and the weight of uncertainty. She moved with a steady determination, clutching a small bundle close to her chest. She was an unwelcome sight in this world of excess, a stark contrast to Ifeoma's polished perfection. Ifeoma's lips curled into a sneer, her eyes narrowing as she stepped back into the cool interior. "What is she doing here?" she muttered, her voice dripping with disdain and disbelief. "Does she think this is some charity house?" The words echoed faintly in the vast hall, met only by the quiet footsteps of the servants who dared not respond. The arrival of this pregnant stranger was about to unravel the delicate balance of power within the Adeyemi estate, and set in motion a chain of events that would trap one woman behind cold prison bars, forever altering lives in ways no one could have foreseen. Ifeoma's days unfolded like a meticulously scripted play, each movement choreographed to maintain her reign over a realm of wealth and influence. Born into a modest family in Ibadan, where narrow, dusty streets and humble homes framed her childhood, she had clawed her way to the pinnacle of Lagos society, marrying Olumide Adeyemi, the richest man in Nigeria. Her transformation from a humble girl to a spoilt billionaire's wife was fueled by ambition and a hunger for control that burned fiercely beneath her composed exterior. Her mornings began with fragrant baths, infused with rare oils imported from distant lands, the scent of ylang-ylang and sandalwood wrapping around her like a protective shroud. Breakfast was served on porcelain dishes etched with gold, each bite a reminder of the privileges she now enjoyed. Servants anticipated her every need before she could utter a word, their hushed voices blending with the soft clinking of fine china. Her closet was a treasure trove of designer gowns, each more extravagant than the last, the fabrics shimmering with beads and sequins that caught the light like miniature stars. Yet, her heart remained restless, craving admiration and dominance amid the glittering cage she had built. Despite the luxury, Ifeoma's relationships were shallow and transactional. Olumide, often absorbed in his sprawling business empire, paid little attention to her moods or desires, his presence in their home more shadow than substance. Friends admired her opulence, but feared her biting tongue and sharp wit, keeping their distance behind forced smiles. To Ifeoma, life was a high-stakes game of power, and she played ruthlessly, wielding her influence like a finely honed weapon. Her sharp eyes missed nothing. The furtive glances of the servants, the subtle shifts in social circles, the whispered gossip that fluttered like wings around her. She prided herself on maintaining control, whether over the estate's staff or the social circles she dominated. But beneath the sparkling surface, a gnawing insecurity lingered, a fear that her carefully constructed world might crumble if challenged, if the fragile mask she wore were to crack. When the news of the pregnant woman's arrival reached her, Ifeoma's mind raced with suspicion and jealousy. Who was this stranger daring to cross the threshold of her sanctuary, disrupting the ordered perfection of her life? More importantly, what threat did she pose to the delicate balance of power and prestige? The question festered in her mind, igniting a fire of suspicion and envy that would soon consume them both. Weeks passed, and the pregnant woman, Amina, lingered on the outskirts of the estate, clinging to hope and despair in equal measure. She had come seeking help, a safe place to deliver her child, but instead found herself the subject of whispers and scorn among the staff and neighbors alike. The estate's lush gardens and manicured lawns were a stark contrast to her threadbare clothing and tired frame. Amina's story was etched into every line on her face, a young woman from a distant village, betrayed by fate and abandoned by those she trusted. Her husband had vanished months ago, leaving her to fend for herself and their unborn child. With no family nearby and her resources dwindling, she ventured to Lagos, chasing rumors of kindness among the wealthy, hoping against hope for mercy. Ifeoma watched from her gilded cage, her jealousy simmering like a slow-burning ember. The servants spoke in hushed tones of Amina's gentle nature, her quiet strength, and the way she spoke softly to the unborn child, humming lullabies learned from her mother. But Ifeoma saw only an intruder, a blemish on her flawless world, a reminder of all she had fought to escape. One evening, as Amina rested beneath a sprawling mango tree near the estate's boundary, the thick scent of ripening fruit and damp earth filling the air, Ifeoma's sharp voice shattered the calm. "You do not belong here," she spat, stepping forward with a sneer, her heels clicking sharply on the gravel path. "This land is no place for your kind." Amina's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering despite the fear flickering within. The soft rustle of leaves stirred the humid air between them. "I seek only shelter and kindness," she replied softly, her voice trembling but resolute. The tension hung thick in the air, a storm brewing beneath the surface. Ifeoma's pride and cruelty clashed with Amina's quiet resilience, setting the stage for a confrontation that would ripple through their lives and beyond. The night air was heavy with the scent of rain and earth as thunder rumbled in the distance, promising a storm. Inside the estate, tension crackled like static electricity. Ifeoma paced the polished marble floors of the grand hall, her mind a whirlwind of rage and insecurity. The presence of Amina, the 9-month pregnant woman who dared to remain on the grounds, gnawed relentlessly at her pride, stirring a tempest beneath her composed exterior. That evening, Amina had been found near the servants' quarters, clutching her swollen belly, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, illuminated by the faint glow of a lantern swinging in the breeze. Rumors had spread that she was seeking help, but Ifeoma saw a challenge to her authority, a crack in the perfect facade she had built with steel and silk. Unable to contain herself, Ifeoma summoned her personal guards, their polished uniforms and stern faces a stark contrast to the gentle glow of the estate's chandeliers. "Remove her from my sight," she ordered coldly, her voice sharp as a blade. "She has no place here." But when the guards approached, Amina's voice trembled yet remained firm. "Please, I only ask for mercy. I have nowhere else to go." Her plea hung in the humid air, fragile yet unyielding. Ifeoma's laughter was bitter, echoing hollowly in the vast hall. "Mercy? From me? You overstep your bounds, woman. Leave or face consequences." Her eyes flashed with a cruel fire as she delivered the ultimatum. The guards hesitated, caught between duty and empathy, the weight of the moment pressing down on them like the approaching storm. Amina, desperate and vulnerable, was pushed toward the estate's old hay bale storage, a forgotten corner behind the stables where the scent of dry grass and age-old wood mingled with the faint smell of horse sweat. There, beneath the flickering light of a lone lantern, Ifeoma's cruelty erupted. In a moment fueled by jealousy and fear, she struck Amina, a harsh blow that sent the pregnant woman sprawling onto the coarse hay bales. The sound of impact echoed like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile peace and drawing gasps from the servants hidden in the shadows. The guard stood frozen in shock, unsure whether to intervene. Ifeoma's eyes burned with a fierce fire as she turned away, her voice low and venomous. "Let this be a lesson." The echo of her words lingered, sharp and unforgiving. Amina lay trembling, the pain not only of the blow but of betrayal seeping deep into her bones. Her unborn child stirred within her, a silent witness to the violence that had shattered the night. This act of brutality would ignite a chain of events, binding their fates in a tale of injustice, resilience, and unexpected redemption. Word of the assault on Amina spread quietly among the estate staff, whispered behind closed doors and exchanged in furtive glances. The hay bale where she had fallen became a silent witness to a cruelty few dared confront. The musty scent of the dry hay mixed with the faint, lingering traces of blood, a grim reminder of the night's violence. Amina, though weak and afraid, summoned the strength to seek help, her resolve steeling with each passing hour. One morning, under the soft glow of dawn, as the first golden rays filtered through the estate's towering trees, Amina confided in Neka, a kind-hearted servant who had long observed the tension between Ifeoma and the pregnant woman. "I cannot stay here," Amina whispered, her voice trembling with exhaustion and fear. "But I cannot leave without justice for my child." Neka's eyes filled with sorrow and determination, the lines of hardship etched deep on her face softening with empathy. "We will find a way," she promised, her voice steady and reassuring. Together they quietly gathered evidence, bruises hidden beneath Amina's flowing robes, witnesses who had seen the altercation, and the memory of the old hay bale, now stained with the shadow of violence. The estate's sprawling grounds, once symbols of power and control, now bore the weight of a growing secret. The hay bale, tucked away behind the stables, became a place of whispered meetings where hope flickered amid fear and the scent of dry grass mingled with hushed voices. Meanwhile, Ifeoma maintained her icy facade, unaware that her actions were stirring a storm she could not contain. The pregnant woman's quiet courage was a challenge that threatened to unravel the threads of her carefully spun world. With Neka's help, Amina approached the local authorities, seeking justice in a system that often turned a blind eye to the powerless. The journey was fraught with obstacles: skeptical officials, bureaucratic delays, and the looming shadow of Olumide's influence that stretched like a dark cloud over the proceedings. But Amina's resolve remained unbroken. The hay bale, once a symbol of her suffering, now represented a beacon of truth she was determined to unveil. As the investigation into the assault began, Ifeoma's world grew increasingly turbulent. Rumors of the complaint reached her ears, and she responded with fury, leveraging her husband's vast power to intimidate witnesses and stall proceedings. The estate's servants whispered of threats and bribes, their fear palpable in every furtive glance and tightened smile. Meanwhile, Amina's condition worsened. The pain from the blow to her abdomen refused to subside, and the unborn child's movements became erratic, filling her with dread. The scent of musty hay lingered in her memory, a haunting reminder of the night that changed everything, mingling with the sterile smells of the clinic she reluctantly visited. The local police, caught between duty and corruption, offered little protection. Nneka, steadfast in her support, faced mounting pressure to stay silent. Yet, she refused, her loyalty to justice outweighing the risks. Even as shadowy figures loomed near, their intentions clear. One evening, as rain poured down in relentless sheets, thunder booming overhead, Amina was forcibly removed from her temporary shelter by men claiming to act on Olumid's orders. Bound and blindfolded, the rough texture of the ropes against her skin and the cold dampness of the night pressed heavily upon her as she was taken to a cold, dark cell, her cries muffled by the stone walls. The prison reeked of dampness and despair, the metallic clang of bars echoing sharply in the confined space, the harsh clang of metal bars closed behind her, sealing her fate. The hay bale, the site of her assault, now felt a world away, a cruel reminder of freedom lost in suffering endured. Ifeoma watched from her palace, a bitter victory etched on her face. Yet, beneath her triumph, a flicker of doubt stirred, a shadow of unease that whispered of consequences yet to come. The cruelty that had won this battle threatened to ignite a war she had not anticipated. Inside the prison's cold confines, Amina found herself surrounded by women whose stories echoed hers, tales of betrayal, injustice, and shattered dreams. The musty air was thick with the scent of damp stone and faint cooking fires burning in distant corners. The clatter of metal chains and the occasional sob punctuated the heavy silence. Among them was Mama Binta, an elder whose wisdom and kindness provided a flicker of light in the darkness. Her deep voice carried stories of resilience and survival, weaving threads of hope into the bleak tapestry of prison life. Amina listened intently as Mama Binta whispered, "We are not broken. Our spirits may be chained, but our hearts remain free." The words settled deep within her soul, a balm against despair. Amina's days merged into nights, marked by the rhythm of footsteps in the corridors and distant cries that echoed through the stone walls. The memory of the hay bale, the rough texture, the earthy scent, became a symbol of her past pain, but also of the strength she would need to endure. Outside the prison walls, Nneka continued the fight, gathering evidence and rallying support among human rights advocates. Her visits brought warmth and hope to Amina, bridging the gap between despair and possibility. The sound of Nneka's footsteps and the reassuring touch of her hand were lifelines in the darkness. Within these harsh walls, Amina's spirit grew. She formed bonds with fellow inmates, their shared stories weaving a tapestry of solidarity and sisterhood. Together they dreamed of justice, each day a step toward reclaiming their lives. The prison, cold and unforgiving, became a crucible where courage was forged, and hope, though fragile, took root. Months passed, and Amina's belly swelled with the life she carried, a testament to endurance amid adversity. Despite the prison's harshness, the biting cold of the nights, and the scarcity of nourishing food, she nurtured her unborn child with whispered lullabies and dreams of freedom, her voice soft but filled with fierce love. In a small corner of the cell, she kept a worn piece of cloth, a fragment from the old hay bale where she had been struck, a tangible connection to her past and a talisman of resilience. The rough fibers felt comforting beneath her fingers, a reminder that even in pain, strength could grow. Ifeoma, now distant from the estate's daily affairs, found herself haunted by dreams of that night, the echo of the blow, the sight of Amina's pain. Her heart, once hardened by pride, stirred with an unfamiliar unease, the walls of her golden cage closing in with every restless night. Nneka's tireless efforts began to bear fruit. Legal advocates took up Amina's case, and the media, drawn by the injustice, shone a light on the shadowed corners of Lagos's elite. The hay bale, mentioned in testimonies, became a potent symbol of the hidden cruelties beneath wealth's glittering surface. Its image splashed across newspapers and television screens. Within the prison, Amina meditated on forgiveness and strength. Her spirit, tempered by suffering, blossomed into resolve. The child she carried was not just a symbol of life, but a beacon of hope, a chance to transform pain into purpose. Her voice, once silenced by fear, grew steady and strong. When the time came, she vowed she would reclaim her story, and with it, her freedom. The day arrived with a sky heavy and gray, as if the heavens mourned the unfolding tragedy. Amina went into labor, the pains ripping through her with fierce intensity, each contraction a thunderclap in the stillness of the prison. The cold walls offered little comfort, only the harsh cries of desperation and the distant clanging of cell doors. Nneka, who had managed to gain limited access through persistent pleas and legal channels, stood by her side, offering what solace she could. The scent of antiseptic mingled with the earthiness of the old hay bale cloth wrapped around Amina's shoulders, a reminder of both suffering and strength, a fragile shield against the harshness surrounding her. Ifeoma, in her lavish home, received news of the birth. Instead of joy, a wave of fear washed over her. The child was a living link to the night of violence she had sought to erase, a constant reminder of the darkness lurking beneath her golden world. As Amina held her newborn, a fragile yet fierce life, the prison erupted in chaos. Accusations flew, alliances shattered, and the tide of public opinion surged like a rising sea. The hay bale, once a silent backdrop, was now central in the courtroom, a silent witness to the truth, its rough fibers bearing the weight of countless secrets. But then, a twist, evidence surfaced implicating Amina in a crime she did not commit, planted by those desperate to protect Ifeoma's reputation. The prison's iron bars closed tighter around her, the storm of injustice reaching its peak, threatening to snuff out the fragile light of hope. The battle for truth had turned into a desperate fight for survival. The courtroom buzzed with tension, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Amina's fate hung in the balance, overshadowed by the influence of wealth and power that loomed like a dark cloud over every decision. The hay bale, now presented as a piece of forensic evidence, bore contradictory testimonies. Some spoke of the assault with clarity and compassion, others twisted the narrative to implicate Amina in a web of deceit. Ifeoma sat poised, her expression unreadable behind a mask of cold composure, as her lawyer deftly dismantled the accusations with practiced ease. The judge's gavel echoed like a death knell for hope, each strike a reminder of the weight of injustice. Despite Nneka's impassioned pleas and the mounting evidence of Amina's innocence, the verdict was harsh. Guilty on fabricated charges, sentenced to life imprisonment. The words fell like stones, crushing dreams and extinguishing light. The prison gates closed behind Amina once more, sealing her in a world of shadows and silence. The hay bale, a symbol of her initial suffering, now represented the twisted web of lies that had ensnared her. binding her fate with chains forged in cruelty. Ifeoma's victory was hollow, her soul burdened by the cost of cruelty. The mansion's glitter seemed dimmer, the walls echoing with the ghosts of her actions and the quiet cries she tried to ignore. Yet, within the prison's darkness, a spark of defiance remained. Amina's story was far from over. Years slipped by like shadows at dusk, each day blending into the next within the cold prison walls. Amina, hardened yet unbroken, transformed the bleak corridors into a sanctuary of hope. She mentored younger inmates, sharing stories of resilience and survival, her voice a steady beacon in the darkness. She kept alive the memory of the hay bale cloth, a symbol of where her journey began and the strength she had found. Outside, Nneka's fight for justice continued, fueled by the unwavering belief in Amina's innocence. The media began to question the verdict, and whispers of corruption within Lagos's elite circles grew louder, carried on the winds of change. Ifeoma, once the embodiment of power, found herself isolated. Her husband's attention waned as scandals threatened their empire's foundation, and the weight of guilt gnawed at her, the face of the 9-month pregnant woman forever etched in her mind, haunting her dreams. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a reckoning where truth and justice would collide in a blaze of revelation. Amina prepared herself, drawing strength from the past and the women who stood beside her in solidarity. The hay bale cloth, worn but sacred, was folded carefully, a talisman for the battle ahead, a symbol of resilience carried forward. In the grand courtroom, filled with the murmur of spectators and flashing cameras, Amina stood tall, her posture resolute despite the weight of the years. The air was electric with anticipation as new evidence was presented. Testimonies from brave witnesses, forensic reports, and the undeniable truth etched into the old hay bale's fibers. Ifeoma entered the courtroom, her posture rigid, eyes darting nervously. The memory of that night, the blow, the pain, the fall onto the hay bales, no longer a secret but a shared burden. The once impenetrable facade cracked beneath the weight of truth. The prosecutor laid bare the web of deceit, exposing the manipulation that had condemned Amina unjustly. The crowd gasped as Ifeoma's facade crumbled, her voice faltering as she faced the woman she had wronged, the enormity of her actions laid bare. In a moment charged with emotion, Amina spoke, not with anger, but with a quiet dignity that silenced the room. "I carry no hatred, only the hope that truth will heal." Her words resonated, a balm to wounded souls. The verdict was overturned. Freedom was restored. Justice, though delayed, had prevailed. Outside the courthouse, the sun shone brighter, casting warm light over a city reborn in hope. Amina stepped into the world, her child cradled gently in her arms, the hay bale cloth wrapped protectively around them, a symbol of survival and new beginnings. The soft fabric fluttered in the gentle breeze, carrying with it stories of pain and perseverance. Ifeoma, humbled and changed, sought forgiveness, not only from Amina but from herself. The walls of her lavish estate no longer felt like a prison, but a place to rebuild what had been broken, where redemption could take root. Nneka smiled, tears glistening in her eyes, as she watched the women embrace, a moment of reconciliation bridging past and future, weaving a new narrative of hope. The city's rhythms resumed, the sounds of bustling streets and lively markets weaving a tapestry of life. But beneath the surface, a lesson lingered. Cruelty may wound, but resilience and truth endure, shining like a beacon in the darkest night. Years later, Lagos thrummed with life, its streets alive with stories of transformation and renewal. Amina, now an advocate for justice and compassion, walked confidently through the marketplace, her child laughing beside her. The hay bale cloth, worn but treasured, hung framed on her wall, a reminder of the journey from darkness to light, a testament to the power of survival. Ifeoma, having stepped away from the shadows of wealth, devoted herself to charity and healing, her heart forever marked by the past, but open to change. She worked quietly, rebuilding bridges and mending wounds, a woman transformed by truth. The estate, once a fortress of cruelty, opened its doors to those in need, a testament to redemption and the enduring power of forgiveness. In the mingling scents of earth and sea, amidst the vibrant colors of Nigerian life, the bright fabrics, the fragrant spices, and the laughter of children, hope blossomed anew. The tale of the spoiled billionaire's wife, the 9-month pregnant woman, and the hay bale that witnessed their fates became a legend whispered through generations, a story of pain, courage, and the enduring power of forgiveness.